Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. How is everyone doing? Checking all my settings. Looks like I'm live. I need to fix my live stream situation soon. Slow improvements, slow little bits of progress, radical incrementalism, new microphone. I have a new keyboard. It's less clacky sounding. My staff will be very excited. I'll be able to take notes in meetings without ruining the meeting with the sound of my aggressive keyboard. It's far less clacky. So I had a bunch of topics I wanted to cover today, and I don't actually think I'm going to get to them all because they are so complex. I have been mulling over homegrown heroes and populism and our position, the Libertarian Party's position in the upcoming election. Are we the heroes or are we the villains? And I think it's something I am still considering and trying to figure out. And I know that my detractors think that we should be the heroes and that I'm the villain and I'm not fulfilling my role. But I disagree. And thinking quite a bit about Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump the hero of this story? And we're just sort of along for the ride. A lot of people would disagree. I don't know. And that's something I'm still kind of mulling over. Is Donald Trump an unlikely anti-hero working to redeem himself on a hero's journey right now? Well, before you click away in disgust from your TDS, or maybe just from being too jaded, on two-party politics, hear me out. I think we are riding a populist wave right now, and people are looking for a hero who's going to deliver them from calamity. The calamity of poverty, of war, of irrelevance, and any other number of bad situations which may or may not be the fault of those individuals. And say what you want about Donald Trump, but there is definitely some mythos built up around him. I think I will probably do another stream just about Donald Trump and Hoppian natural elites, which should interest some of you. So, I'm not an expert in Jungian psychology. It's interesting to me, especially from the perspective of Jordan Peterson and all the work that he's done on it. But archetypes, I think, play very heavily into politics. And it's something that anybody in politics should be learning quite a bit. The archetype of the hero in particular is something that I think is, what's a good way to put it? Tied to Donald Trump, for better or worse, whether we like it or not. So I want to talk about it a little bit under the context of from the frame of someone who knows about it from watching YouTube videos, not a Jungian expert. What is the archetype of the hero? Archetypes are like cognitive structures that can't be observed directly, but they manifest in various images or symbolic patterns and behavior types, in my opinion, and they form the basis of a lot of myths and stories. And it explains how similar myths can arise in vastly different cultures, separated by hundreds or thousands of years all over the world. And I think that everybody has a good idea of the sort of things I'm talking about. And we're not going to get into the individuation process and personality, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole that you can go down on YouTube. Check out Jordan Peterson videos on that stuff. From this perspective, it's really just, the simplified, dumbed down version as it relates to politics in the hero's journey. So I think there's a lot of different versions of the hero's journey. In myths that follow the pattern of the hero's journeys, someone answers the call to adventure, right? The would-be hero ventures forth from his familiar world into strange and threatening lands, crossing through Middle-earth to Mordor, crossing the grasslands in a covered wagon, or maybe wading into the American political landscape if you're Donald Trump. The hero's journey always begins with a call to adventure. And I'm sure that some of you can immediately identify where your own hero's journey started, what your call to adventure was, and you can relate to that. In myths, I think this call is personified sometimes as an animal that the hero encounters, a white stag, that's a very common trope, a burning bush like Moses, or some other mysterious, unsettling, or paradigm shifting thing. It's very interesting. It's symbolic of our instincts, gut feeling, which is probably very insightful, but something that we ignore. I think that in modern times, we probably ignore that more often than not. I don't know what beckoned to Donald Trump to jump in this race back in 2016, but I would love to find out, and I hope that someone interviews him from this perspective. Because whatever the thing is, though, it shakes you up. It draws you out and propels you forward. And I know that some of his past interviews, he talked about how he would never jump into politics because of the danger. You get in trouble for saying what you think. People in politics are reviled. So I'm really curious what that thing was that called him into this adventure. And I've been thinking about what it was that called me into the adventure, and I can't really even describe what it was. It was a literal phone call from Ted Brown back in California, but that's a whole nother thing. What happens when people refuse to answer the call to adventure? LP party cultists and centrists, I think you should pay close attention to this. It's always possible to ignore or reject the call to adventure. And you see this trope a lot in movies where the protagonist is an anti-hero type, someone whose trauma, their past trauma, or their crappy upbringing has conditioned them to reject personal responsibility and growth. Um, I think that that is something that we need to really mull over as libertarians: the rejection of the call to adventure, refusal of the summons to adventure. It converts the adventure into its inverse, either through boredom, culture, or just like drudgery. The individual loses the ability to make transformational change and becomes a victim to be saved. Instead of a hero, you become the opposite of it, a victim. Stay in your pod and eat the bugs. You will own nothing and be happy. That is the antithesis of the call to adventure. I think the WEF is probably one of the greatest archetypal villains of all time, at least for story purposes. That probably deserves a whole video. What else? What about wah, why can't we get more than 3%? It's the duopoly, the uniparty. I think that is like peak victim attitude, which is why you don't hear me talk about duopoly and uniparty very often. I think it's very annoying. Many party cultists, in my opinion, have rejected the call to adventure and settled into permanent political victim status. And it's because they view the call to adventure as too challenging. But a challenge is exactly what they need, and you need it to shape your character and emerge and become a hero. So, more on that later. But yeah, I think that's a real problem in the LP. I think that people are very comfortable being political victims. They don't want to take risks. That's why they don't want to work with people in other political parties. That's why they're critical of the good work that Hannah Goodman has done in Colorado. It's why they don't want to go after local elections or do policy work, because the risk of winning is just so uncomfortable, because victim is a very easy title to claim. You can claim it with almost no work, and it's very comfortable, right? You know the script. You know how your life goes when you're a perpetual victim. While the call to adventure is often refused initially by the anti-hero types, people who lack self-esteem or otherwise find themselves unworthy, not everyone who hesitates loses out on it. There are forces at work who understand the importance of the adventure and act to ensure the call does not remain unanswered forever. And those forces are often personified as supernatural helpers of some sort, like Jiminy Cricket, the Blue Fairy, Angela McArdle, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl of the LP. You get the idea. There's always some little helper pushing you on, your conscience, whatever it is. Assisted by internal forces, the hero eventually answers the call to adventure and ventures off into unknown territory. I want to be the thing that is pushing the LP to answer the call to adventure. That is, I feel like, my role in politics, one of my many roles this election cycle. So we'll see how it goes. But I want to be the little Jiminy Cricket, urging you forward. At the boundary of the homeland and the strange new land, when you're leaving your home and you're meeting the wilderness, the hero encounters the threshold guardian. I think this is a really interesting topic. And this is the point where someone realizes that there's no turning back. And I wonder what this point was for Donald Trump. Everybody has that particular moment where they're like, oh shit, there is no turning back now. And I think that's really interesting. I think right now, though, we're watching Donald Trump in the part of his hero's journey where he like encounters the belly of the whale, encounters his trials, and we're kind of waiting to see if he's going to emerge victorious and transformed. The story isn't finished yet. And for people who hate him, it's it's difficult to see that. It's difficult to see any of these things I'm talking about. But for those who don't mind cheering him, for those of you who don't have TDS and you don't mind kind of cheering on from the sidelines for an imperfect person, we're kind of hoping he survives, right? The trials and a new, more impressive version of himself will emerge. What would that be? I think actually, can we present it? I think we can. It's this right here. It's this.
If I wasn't a libertarian before, I sure as hell am a libertarian now.
That's it. That is what we're all, oh, I froze. That is what we're all hoping to see. I just saw that I froze. So terrible. But yeah, that's what we want to hear. We want to see Donald Trump, become a libertarian. Even if you hate him and you don't want to see him join the party or whatever, we all want everybody to be a libertarian, I assume. If you're a good libertarian, that's what you want. And then, we also, when we talk about a hero's journey, we're thinking of like, who are they going to save, right? And I know that it's reasonable to be highly skeptical and say Donald Trump is not going to save me. He's not saving anybody. I don't think he's saving the country. Well, I agree. I don't think he's saving the country. I think you're looking at it the wrong way. I think he's saving the boomers. I think Donald Trump is redeeming his generation and trying to fix all of the mistakes that they stuck us with. So try to see it from that perspective. Younger generations are really pissed off at the boomer generation. We have crazy inflation. We have entangling alliances all over the globe. We have, there's no social security. Most of us, the smart ones, are deeply resentful that we have to pay into a system that we're never going to see that money come back. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. The boomer generation has really failed us. And if Donald Trump can peel back some of the things that they screwed up and redeem them a little bit, like I'm here for it 100%. I don't know if we can trust him. I don't know if that's even the right question to ask. I think it assumes a lot, but we need to be able to take risks and to put limited faith in people, because I think the inability to do that leads us down some very dark paths and to some very ugly conclusions. Putting some limited amount of faith in someone doesn't mean that you like everything they do or say, or that you agree with them, or that you chose them, or you even really side with them. It's more about the ability to hope for a better future, regardless of your current situation. And it's about like being white pilled and being able to see out of things and rejecting nihilism. You have to be able to plan for and see a way out of a bad situation so that you don't become just totally closed off from a good future and nihilistic and without meaning in your life. If we reject every good thing that comes in a mixed bag, then we're going to end up rejecting all good things, because there is no perfection in the world. And no, I am not saying you should join the GOP, which I strongly believe you should not do. I don't think you should reject libertarianism. I don't think you need to do any of that stuff to hope for a good outcome in the world. I think you can and should continue to be a libertarian and to work towards libertarian outcomes. But you should not work against the good that other people are trying to do. All of this requires nuance and it requires risk-taking. Not a good topic for the Kathy Newmans of the world. People ask, how do you know? All the time I get asked this. How do you know you can trust him? Well, you don't know that. You don't know that you can trust him. And it requires some risk-taking to work with anyone that you're not sure you can trust, as do all important things in life. Everything is degrees of risks and degrees of trust. And the two are not mutually exclusive. And maybe that's why you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one kind of unstable basket. But we can work together towards common goals and hope that we achieve those goals. And we are working towards those goals anyway. So that's what I think about Donald Trump right now. I think that he is on sort of this mythic hero's journey to redeem the boomer generation, and that there are a lot of parts of it that are going to benefit us younger generations greatly. I think we should be hopeful and optimistic and cautiously cheering him on. I don't think that you need to 100% endorse everything he's doing. He's got some positions I strongly don't agree with. I urge everyone to join the Libertarian Party, not the GOP. I urge people to support Chase, especially in blue states, where we're going to make wins in ballot access. But I want to be realistic and optimistic about the future of this country, because I want to live somewhere good, and I want to, I want people representing us who care about us and care about our issues. And if we can improve them and make their campaigns and their policy positions better, I think we should. What about lolberts and the rule of law? I wanted to talk about this a lot, but I didn't do a lot of preparation for it like I wanted to. So let me just run down it a little bit. What is the rule of law? I think that not everybody agrees with this, and it's a very vague term, kind of like natural law. And I think this is the immediate, we have a breakdown in communication immediately because no one agrees on what the rule of law is. In the Libertarian Party, it might be something as simple as Robert's Rules of Order, which is a total snooze and puts everyone to sleep. But it is literally our rule, and I think that we have a lot of people in the party and also in the movement who greatly value mob rule and democracy over the rule of law. And there is a legal letter right now circulating. LPNH graciously tweeted that out to the world, that there are some people who are very upset that our delegates did not follow the rule of law at our convention. And there could be consequences to it. Not sure yet. Could also be a big nothing burger. So, but it's another thing that gets tossed in my lap. Yay. Because of mob rule and the whims of democracy. And I think it's very interesting how the Democrats behave this way. And we also have a demographic of our party that behaves the same way. I think this is just like a real split in human beings, especially in the United States. And a lot of libertarians get very mad at the left-right comparison. They say, we're not left, we're not right, we're libertarians. But there are some unique and intrinsic qualities to people who are on the quote unquote right and on the quote unquote left. And I see those same qualities appear in the Libertarian Party. And it would behoove us to pay attention to that and, try to fix our behavior a little bit. And if you just really love mob rule and democracy, perhaps you should join a different organization. And when I say democracy, I mean it in the worst possible way. The tyrannical rule of the majority and the contempt for the rule of law. It's like there's this desire to rule over yourself and the desire to rule over others, and they seem to be like at odds sometimes. And then there's this challenge, like a lot of these detractors and mob rule people, they refuse to agree. They won't come to any mutually respected rules of engagement. I think that's another interesting thing. We're going to see this probably play out at the national convention too. And I think that right now everybody's kind of freaking out, wondering what's the Democratic Party going to do? Oh, celebrate, Joe Biden is a train wreck. He's too old. He's not able to do this. What an easy win for Donald Trump. Other people are rightfully paranoid that they're going to put someone like Hillary Clinton in. I don't think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. If it is, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know that he's, got a solid enough base to lock it up. Hillary Clinton freaks me out. But what freaks me out more than that is something like martial law, Democrats, have, engaging in projection and like suspending the election. That kind of stuff is what worries me. Like, I don't think that they respect the rules of engagement. And I think that as a party, the Libertarian Party, we should be watching all of this stuff and saying, let's not be like that. We want to respect the rules of engagement. And I know that the people on the left who engage in mob rule, the ones who were so crazy at our convention, they're the ones who think January 6th is, like the worst thing since 9/11. And what a terrible travesty it was for our democracy. And it's wild to see people behave that way. I mean, they weren't literally scaling the walls, but, they were screaming. There was a lot of screaming. Yeah, the people in our party are a small microcosm of the country at large, and it would behoove us to be better. That's what I think. So let's be better. Let's um let's talk more about the rule of law next Saturday. And I think next Saturday I want to really dig into the Chase Oliver campaign. Oh, I froze again. I don't know how to get my computer to not freeze when I'm doing my live stream. It's just StreamYard. Zoom works fine, but I hate Zoom. Zoom live streams suck, in my opinion. So I think next Saturday, I really want to dig into the Chase campaign, talk about the rule of law a little bit more and what our role is, in the political journey of 2024, whether it's for, in comparison to Donald Trump or Joe Biden, we are playing a very significant role. And I'm curious if people think we're the heroes or the villains. Someone said, can you please cheer on Chase Oliver? Yes, go Chase, go. That's very easy. We are a republic, not a democracy. Someone asked my thoughts on the Chevron case. That's a really good question. Getting the Chevron case overturned was amazing. It happened the day after the debates, so it didn't get as much attention as it should. But it's hugely significant, and it's a huge stab at the deep state. Basically, we have this giant ass regulatory framework that makes it impossible to, respect property rights, let businesses do what they think, run their organizations the way they see fit. It props up regulatory schemes that just greatly inhibit technology, economic growth, American jobs. Kicking the Chevron case's ass is like one of the best things for the economy. If you don't like Donald Trump for anything else, if you can't stand the guy, whatever, you can appreciate his Supreme Court picks because they have been doing some really cool stuff. Not as much cool stuff as they could be doing, but this is a prime example. This would not have happened under an old Supreme Court. So I love that. I love what happened with the Chevron case. I saw a really good summary of it on Twitter. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like, basically, Congress didn't want to do their jobs, and so they let regulatory agencies do their jobs, and now that's reversed, and now Congress has to do their job, and regulatory agencies don't get to write laws and overrule Congress. So that's a good way to put it. All those agencies are grossly unconstitutional. So I hope we can abolish some of them. And I hope that this is one step in that direction. Any other? I can't super chat yet. I don't have watch hours for super chats yet, but I will hopefully have those in a month or less. Oh, this is really nice. Hi, Angela. Congrats on assisting with freeing Assange. That is something I considered doing a stream on. Julian Assange is free. We had a really crazy week. It was really up and down. Julian Assange gets freed. We have the Chevron case, the debates, CNN losing their minds. Thomas Massey's wife passed away, which was horrible news and shocking. Everyone should pray for him. He's a wonderful human being and he has a wonderful family. So that was really terrible. But yeah, what a roller coaster week. Yeah, we did lobby for Julian Assange, very publicly, also a little bit behind the scenes. I won't talk about everything. I would say we played a small role, and I think that's accurate, and it's okay to say it. Liz Wolfe was pretty gross with her takes on that on social media, and I'm glad she was ratioed on that. And I go back and forth on, do I want to draw attention to the people who are really negative and hate us, and who I think are, possibly even operatives, I don't know. And if they're not, could you tell the difference? Or do I want to just talk about our wins and the important things that we do and, good work that we have going forward? I go back and forth on it a lot. Not everybody at Reason. There are some very fine people at Reason Magazine. But there are some really terrible people there too, who really hate the LP. They don't want to see us making progress. I feel like they want libertarianism to be captured by the left. It's a very strange thing. Yeah, it's really difficult to unpack. That would be a really good live stream too, talking about their donor class, what their takes are, who they attack consistently. They've spent 2 years really trashing me, really going after me. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them, enough. And then when we got Chase Oliver as our candidate, I thought, well, finally, our presidential candidate's going to get some good coverage. They trashed him too. They don't like him, and he can have some criticism on some of his issues, certainly. But I was surprised by the way that they went after him. And I think it's because they hate the LP and they have a very specific agenda in mind. It is what it is, and it's certainly interesting, and I think it begs the question, why do they have that agenda? But yeah, it is. Boomer politicians. Don't lump all boomers together. I certainly don't. There are a lot of good exceptions to the rule, and a lot of people who never voted for all that crappy stuff. But it is one of the problems is with generations is you all get lumped in. I get lumped in with shitty millennials, elder millennials, people who spend their money on avocado toast instead of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. I'm bootstrapping it all day long. All day long, I'm bootstrapping this, bootstrapping that. I can't bootstrap through this insane inflation, though. That was not on me. That was on people who made really crappy choices who came before me. Conservatives. You have more in common with conservatives than you might think. Many are ready to break away from the uniparty. Yes, I think so. And, it's a struggle to make sure that the LP doesn't just stay a clown show. And I am the ringleader of the circus. I am the top clown. I think I packed all my clown noses in my purse, or I would give you a little honk honk. And it's a delicate dance, right? Because we want to be attractive and waiting in the wings for people after Donald Trump's presidency is done. Because I think you're going to see a ton of small L libertarians and conservatarians leave the GOP. Because he's going to suck all the oxygen out of the room. It's just once he's done, that's it. You'll have 5 good people sticking around, and everybody else is going to be like, where the hell do I go? And I want them to come here, come to the LP, help us make it great. It was great once. It's been a couple of decades, but it was actually a really freaking amazing organization, what our founders put together. But it's going to be a challenge, right? Pulling off the Chase Oliver thing and also not having the party become full of people on the left, which is why we have to be very careful with how we message on that and try to grow membership. Really, it's if you believe in sound economic policy, if you want peaceful foreign policy, if you like the work that we've done to get the Department of Education hopefully abolished, to get Ross Ulbricht free, the amount of pressure we were able to apply on the Julian Assange issue, you should join the Libertarian Party. We are supporting Chase Oliver. The National Party is. It's a little bit of an anomaly and a weird situation, but it will work out. And so you just have to trust the plan. I'm much more accessible than the mysterious Q of QAnon, so you don't have to worry about it being that level of a conspiracy. Here I am on a live stream, not a CIA captured Q. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Oh yeah, someone said I was frozen. Yeah, that happens all the time. Someone said, I live in the city where Tolkien was born. That is very cool. Why is it so difficult for the Libertarian Party to gain real traction? I think I talked about that a little bit, but I try to talk about that in every stream because half of the party is profoundly unserious and they don't want to gain traction and they love getting 3% and being perpetual victims and they're mad at their dad. But the other half of the party, and I don't just mean the Mises Caucus, I mean people who are, I'm freezing again, people who are neutrals, people who are caucusless, they're friendly to us, people who just want to focus on elections. Those are really good members, and they do care, and they are saddled down, with the baggage of the crazies. So it's about overcoming the crazies. How do you How much time do you spend fighting the crazies? That's a whole time suck thing. Clearly like a CIA Fed tactic too, to sow chaos. It's like COINTELPRO stuff. But they're why we don't make more progress. And then I think also a lot of people in the middle, we call them the middle, people who are not in caucuses, who don't engage in infighting, they get fatigued by it. And so then they end up taking the attitude of, oh, it's both sides. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on very closely, that's a reasonable take. But if you are paying attention, it's not true. It's not both sides. Because we're 100% serious. Look at the electoral progress. Look at the policy gains that we're making right now. We're very focused on candidate support. We have a political director. We have software. We have monthly trainings. Like I am one of the only chairs who has donated money to local candidates in quite a while. I did that in my last term. I was I was the deciding vote on a couple of those things. Very in favor of it. So it's not both sides, like we are trying to advance political wins. And there are people who are like, no, I want to strip on stage and be crazy and scream about sex work and just, generally embarrass us. So that's why we don't make more gains, but I'm trying to drive them out. I'm trying to be the St. Patrick of the LP, get rid of all the snakes. Snakes bad. And so, yeah, that's fun. Angela for president, maybe in like 3 election cycles or something. I need more political success and credibility before I do that. And why not take over the GOP post-Trump? It's so hard to take over a political party. It took us 5 years in the Mises Caucus to take over the LP, which is not very much, but that's a much smaller political organization. The GOP is deeply tied to deep state operatives. They have they got people in their party who are just straight up murdering people overseas. It's very scary, probably here in the United States too. So, that's a really tough one. I think your candidate is actually better to go against Biden than anyone else. He will play well in the blue states. 100% agree. 100% agree. I think if people can just buckle up and go along for the ride, it's going to be amazing. And I'm super excited. So that is all for my Saturday stream. I hope that I have some really interesting stuff next Saturday. And hopefully also I'll plug in my new microphone, which I finally got all the cables for. And I got a little, this guy. So this will be fun. Try this thing out next Saturday. Anyway, I hope you all have a lovely weekend. There's a bunch of LNC meetings next Sunday. So if you really want to torture yourself, gouge your ears out, you can join our business meeting next Sunday night. That'll be live streaming as well. See you guys later. Don't forget to support me on Patreon, Locals, Substack, and you can get a Get In Loser or Stopping Joe Biden shirt at my Printify store. Thanks. Have a great